Chapter 3, Mini Blinds. As they walked home from the meeting together, Violet thought about how lucky she was to have Tiger Lily as her best friend. Tiger Lily was exciting and daring, and Violet always felt braver around her. She looked at her friendship bracelet and tucked it in another loose string. Tiger Lily, she said, I don't need another friend, and I especially don't need to be friends with a Maple Scout. Me neither, said Tiger Lily. What do you want to do now? What Violet really wanted to do was get started on her friendship journal, but then she remembered that friendship is about give and take. And anyway, if she did something with Tiger Lily now, she would have that much more to write in her journal later. I don't know, said Violet. How about you? Tiger Lily smiled. That's what she liked about Violet. She would almost always go along with whatever Tiger Lily wanted to do. Let's go do something fun, said Tiger Lily. And she scampered off. Violet followed after her. When Tiger Lily came to the house where Violet lived, she didn't enter the small hole in the siding that led to Violet's home. Instead, she darted under the front door and into the humans' living room. Violet was nervous. She didn't like being in the people's part of the house during the day. Tiger Lily didn't mind, though. She loved the feeling of carpet under her feet. She climbed up the sofa and ran along the top of it. Then she took a flying leap to the window and landed on the slat of a mini blind. Come on up, Violet, she shouted. Violet looked at Tiger Lily. She was so high above the ground, Violet wasn't sure how to get herself up there. But as Tiger Lily swung back and forth on the blind, Violet had to admit that it did look like fun. She looked around the room and listened. There was no sign of any people. Violet's nose twitched, but she gritted her teeth and climbed up the sofa. Then she ran across the top. The mini blind still looked very far away. But taking a deep breath, Violet leapt as hard as she could and just barely managed to grab onto the blind. She was shaking all over as she crawled through the slat to sit next to Tiger Lily. Violet was afraid to look down. It was a long way to the floor. How in the world were they going to get down again? They might have to spend the rest of their lives sitting on this blind. Tiger Lily did not seem uncomfortable at all. She sat humming the Acorn Scout song and swinging her legs back and forth in time to the music. That made the whole blind sway. Violet began to feel seasick. What do you think Miss Poppy and her best friend used to do for fun? Violet asked Tiger Lily. Do you think they ever played on mini blinds? The thought of Miss Poppy doing anything of that sort made Violet laugh and forget where she was for a moment. She would probably get tangled up and the string, Violet giggled. The blinds shook with their laughter, but Violet didn't mind. She was starting to like it up here. Suddenly, she heard the creak of a door opening. Humans, she squeaked. Tiger Lily reached for the blind's control wand and swung to a nearby lamp. She grabbed onto the lampshade, then leapt to the chair next to the lamp and scurried down to the floor. She looked behind her for Violet, but Violet was nowhere to be seen. Hurry, Violet, she hissed. Help, squeaked Violet. Tiger Lily had accidentally closed the blinds, and Violet was trapped between the slats. Tiger Lily ran back to the window and jumped up to grab the wand. She twisted and twisted until the slats began to open. Violet tumbled out and bounced down the slats all the way to the windowsill. She landed for a moment, but then lost her balance and bounced to the floor. Violet stood up and straightened her uniform. Her acorn cap had a small dent, but otherwise, there didn't seem to be any permanent damage. Then she heard more footsteps. They were getting closer. Run, squeaked Tiger Lily. She and Violet scurried along the baseboards until they came to a mouse hole. In here, said Tiger Lily, about to duck in. Wait, said Violet. That's old Miss Pansy's house. She's even scarier than Miss Poppy. We can't go in there. The human's footsteps were in the room now. We have no choice, Tiger Lily said, and dove through the hole. Violet was close behind. Miss Pansy was in the middle of dusting her living room when Violet and Tiger Lily tumbled in. The nerve of you two, she said, shaking her feather duster at them. What is it with young mice today? In my day, we knew better than to barge into someone's home unannounced. Sorry, Miss Pansy, said Violet. Then she and Tiger Lily climbed up the wall and squeezed through a tiny crack in the plaster. It led to a tunnel that eventually brought them back to Violet's back door. See you tomorrow, Tiger Lily said. Don't forget, we've got to come up with a plan for dealing with the Maple Scouts. Then she ran through Violet's house and out the front door. Violet was relieved when she sat down to work on her friendship journal. Sometimes being Tiger Lily's friend could be too exciting, but still, Tiger Lily was her best friend. And even if it wasn't the nicest bracelet, she loved the friendship bracelet Tiger Lily had given her. Violet felt for the bracelet on her wrist, but there was nothing there. She jumped up and looked all around, but it was no use. Her friendship bracelet was gone. Mouse Scout's Handbook. Three Blind Mice, a game about trust. This game is designed for a troop of 6 mice, but will work with any even number. Before the game starts, set up an obstacle course. It can be as simple as a few chairs placed throughout a room. More complex courses could involve steps, jumps, or tunnels. Once the course is set up, divide the mice into pairs. One mouse in each pair will put on a blindfold. The other mouse will act as a guide. The guides will lead the blindfolded mice through the obstacle course. Once the course has been completed, the mice will trade blindfolds. The blindfolded mouse must trust their guides with The blindfolded mice must trust that their guides will safely take them through the obstacle course.